I'm doing exactly right, Danny. How about you?
Good, thank you. All right. We are winding down, people. We have about 5 more weeks and we'd be done. So for those of you that have been hanging tough this whole time, congratulations. I hope it's been worth it for you.
Look how empty the room is done.
Yeah,
That's all my
okay. So we finished up step 9. And actually, I think we talked about the 3 dimensions of existence last week. And that's where we kind of left it off at, right? And so the steps are designed for living that put us back together in all 3 dimensions that we spoke of last week, as God intended it to be in the first place. So that's where we're at with this. Anybody got any questions on the 9th step? Need to talk about something or go over something before we move on? Okay. Well, step 10 then. One of the things you hear a lot about when people talk about 10, 11, and 12 is these are the maintenance steps. And they're not really maintenance steps. Maintenance would be to keep something as it is, to maintain it. This is more about these are growth steps, so you can continuously grow. Okay, that's what this is about. Because the universal law is that everything is always constantly changing. All right, so if that's true and if we're part of that, then we want to constantly change in a positive way. And back on, I forgot what step we were on, but back on page 58, I gave you this formula or this thing to look at. Middle of the first paragraph. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. And remember, I gave you that knowledge plus practice, that little formula. Yeah. Knowledge plus practice equals learning. Learning changes character. Character changes the way we live. Right, and use that as an example. A manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. They're naturally incapable of grasping and developing. So grasping is getting the knowledge, and developing is practicing the knowledge. So knowledge plus practice, right? So we talked about that. Now here on page 84, we come to this same formula again on a whole different level. It's the second paragraph, the one that starts with this thought brings us to step 10. And in the middle of the paragraph, it says, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. See that? Understanding and effectiveness. That's the same thing. Knowledge plus practice. To grow in understanding, that's the knowledge. And effectiveness is the practice of that knowledge. But now we're on a different plateau, so to speak. We're on a different level doing this. But it's still knowledge plus practice. Okay. I think when I told you the first time, I said there's another one coming up later in the 10th step, right? Okay. So let's go back to page 84 then. And the second paragraph, after the promises, says this thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and to continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We've entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. So here are a bunch of things in this paragraph. So another kind of misnomer would be that the 10th step is something that at the end of the day, at nighttime, we sit down and we do a 10th step, right? And we look at our day, and that may be a part of what a 10th step is. It's different types in the 12 and 12 goes over different types of inventories. But that's not really what the 10th step is. The 10th step is not to go at nighttime and look back over your day. We just read what the 10th step is here. And a lot of people don't catch this. It says, this brought us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and to continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. So what they're really telling us to do is to be aware of this stuff as we go through the day. Why wait until nighttime to go back and think about what I could have done better or where I messed up? Why not catch myself as I'm living during the day, maybe even before I do that stuff? If I question my motives and do, and check on myself. So the 10th step is about as we go through the day, as we go along. So it says we have entered the world of the spirit. What is the world of the spirit? I've heard people share about this for years. And then I say to them, that's cool. What is the world of the spirit? Oh, I'm not really sure. The world of the spirit. So what are we talking about? You need to have an idea of what we're talking about here. The world of the spirit is where I'm able to go to that place in myself when in the midst of something happening, where I'm able to go to that place in myself and find my God and take my God and bring him out to the present. So what's going on in my life? I've got a connection with God. I'm in, the next step over, we're going to look to improve that relationship with God. But we've done some work now that we should have a personal God in our life, not a generic God, but a personal God. And now, if I'm living in the world of the spirit, then I'm able to, when something comes up or something happens, I'm able to stop and go in and find my God and bring him out to the moment. Or at least, if not even that much, at least to go into that happy place where I'm at with God, that peaceful place where me and God are at. So it says that we vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. So now, if that's true, our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Knowledge plus practice again, right? And this doesn't happen overnight. It should continue for a lifetime. So this is something we want to start practicing now, because for the rest of my life, I want to be able to practice this stuff, okay? So the 10th step is really not a new step. It's the first time in the program that we come to a step that's not new. We're not going to do anything here that we haven't already done in the previous steps. What the 10th step is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on a regular daily basis. That's what the 10th step is. Now watch what it says now. It's going to go over 4 through 9. It says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When did we watch for those? In the 4th step, right? Okay. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. When did we do that? In 6 and 7, right? We discuss them with someone immediately, step 5, and make amends if we have harmed anyone. So that's 8 and 9. So right there, it just describes steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nothing new. when it says to continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, do you remember we went over the four absolutes? Who remembers that? And do you remember the questions that go with those four absolutes? Okay, you can use your little cheat book.
No, I know.
So in a nutshell, in the same kind of way, I want to ask myself when I'm looking at these things, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? How's it going to affect other people? And that's how I'm going to check myself about being selfish. Okay. So is everybody with me so far?
Yep.
Okay. So two important things, more than two things, but two main things in this paragraph is that I realize that it's not about inventory at nighttime, but it's more about what happens through the day. And the other important thing is that I want to have the ability to go inside myself to that place where I find my God and be in the world of the spirit and bring them out to what's going on in my life. And when I do that, I always do the right thing. I'm not saying I always do the right thing. I said, when I do that, I always do the right thing. Sometimes I don't want to do that, but I don't have an excuse on it. So, and then it says, then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. 12-step work, right? Love and tolerance of others is our code. 11-step work. So we've just described in this thing 4 through 12, actually. And now we come to what we call the second set of promises. And I don't know if I think I did it way back in week 1, 2, or 3 or something, where I took you to this and I said, I'd like to take a newcomer to this. I don't know if you remember that. I said, I'd like to read this with a newcomer, right? Because listen what it says. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor we are afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Now, I like to read that to a new guy because nobody that just comes into the room is feeling like this. In fact, for myself, when I just came in, not only was I not feeling like this, I didn't think that this was possible. Maybe possible for you, but not possible for me to feel like this. Where the problem has been removed, it don't exist. I'm not fighting it, and I feel as though I've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. I didn't have that kind of shit going on. I was paranoid. I was nuts, you know. Well, what a miracle this is. And it says it there. It says it just comes. That is the miracle of it. And the miracle of it is simple. The miracle of it is it just comes. You don't really need to earn it. If you do these things, it just comes. You know what it is? It's a gift. That's what it is. It's a gift. So here we've been given a gift. And the gift is this miracle that has placed me in a position of neutrality where I feel safe and protected. It's very foreign for somebody like me, probably for you too, to be in a position of neutrality where you feel safe and protected. Very, not a normal, natural instinct, right? So it says that's the miracle of it. No, it says we see that a new attitude toward liquor been given us without any thought or effort on our part. And that's a result of these steps up until this step, really. And it just comes, and that's the miracle of it. All right. So now it says, it is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. Sure, it's easy, I'm sure. We've probably all been there and felt that. But the great thing about this book is it tells you how to live, what to do, what's going to happen if you do, what's going to happen if you don't, right? And here's a dire warning for us. It says it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do. For alcohol is a subtle foe. So you may not be sitting at home going, oh, I need a drink, I need a drink, I need a drink. Or you might be sitting at home going, you know, I need to go over there and do that or do this or take this or be like that. But you know, all negative things that you shouldn't be doing. Okay. So here's the kicker. What it's telling us here is that we're not cured of alcoholism. It's that old joke in AA. It's alcoholism. It's not alcoholism just because we stopped drinking, right? You don't have alcoholism. You have alcoholism. Okay. So we're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Now, this is one of the things that I've seen people mess up more than anything in the book. It's amazing. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on maintenance of our spiritual condition, right? It is not contingent upon our spiritual condition. So many people running around the rooms worried about how spiritual they are. Was that spiritual? Do I look spiritual? You think that was spiritual? I'm not sure if I'm feeling spiritual. You don't have to worry about how spiritual you are. You have to worry about the maintenance. And the maintenance is what? Maintenance means you're doing the work that you do to keep something running the way you want it to run, right? And in our case, you want it to run, you want to have continuous spiritual growth. And these first 9 steps have taken us there. So if I repeat them, then I should continue to get spiritual growth, right? So the reprieve that I get is contingent on the work that I do for my spiritual condition. It's not contingent on my spiritual condition. People that are spiritual never ask themselves, am I spiritual? Do I feel spiritual? Do I look spiritual? They don't say that. You know, it's like people that are not alcoholic, right? Non-alcoholic people never, we talked about this in week 1. They never question themselves, am I alcoholic? They know they're not. There's nothing else to talk about. People that are spiritual never question if they're spiritual. They know it, they feel it, they live it. So don't run around the rooms worried about how spiritual you are. Worry about the work that you're doing to be spiritual. Every day. So, and now it's going to tell you the proper use of the will, really. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So if you've ever wondered what the proper use of your will is, it's right here. It just told you. Tell them I'm in a meeting. They want to know what the proper use of the will is. Tell them.
It's not this.
So, I mean, it's really very simple, right? The proper uses of the will is how can I best serve thee? Thy will be done, not mine. Now, I can utilize that willpower all I want and all I wish because it's the proper use of the will. That's the way my will should be used. not selfishly, unselfishly. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. That is the proper use of the will. So let me back up a little. When it talks about what we really have is a daily reprieve. So what they're saying is my alcoholism is only suppressed. It's not gone. But you can live a good life with alcoholism if you do what you're supposed to do. Just like if you're a diabetic or something, you know, there's lots of illnesses and stuff that you could live a good life with if you follow the path that you're supposed to follow. And so this is no different. Somebody's trying to get in.
Already got her.
Oh, okay. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got any questions on that? Yes.
This is where we start to enter the mark.
This is where we what?
Back to the markers for flat.
Well, yeah, we've been doing that along the way anyway. But now we're going to try practicing. So I'm glad you said that. There's an interesting thing. In the 12 and 12, in step 10, if you read the whole thing in step 10 and 12 and 12, it talks about in the daytime, look at our day, you know, and at nighttime, look at the day that just went by, right? It tells us that in the 12 and 12, in step 10. In step 11, in the big book, it tells us the same thing. That we review our day that just passed, and in the morning, we look at the day ahead. So here's a question for you. The 12 and 12 tells us to do that in step 10. The big book tells us to do the same thing in step 11. I don't know if you've ever noticed that. What's the difference? Why is one in step 10 and the other is step 11? Doing the same thing. It's telling us to do the same thing. This is one slight little difference.
You tell me.
And the slight little difference is step 10 is a mental exercise. Step 11 is a spiritual exercise. Step 11 is saying to invite God in. And step 10 is not in the 12 and 12. It's telling us to look at our day ahead. And so, but in step 11 in the big book, it's telling us to do this with God in our prayer, right? On our meditation, and we talk to God. So one is a mental exercise, the other is a spiritual exercise. Because, you know, God gave us brains, we should use them, right? So, yeah, well, we should use them, yeah. So the idea then that I could take a look at something, situation or something going on, and I could look at it intellectually. That's what it is. Step 10 is an intellectual exercise, I should say, and step 11 is a spiritual exercise. But in step 11, I'm going to invite God in, and through prayer and meditation, I'm going to look at the same thing that it just asked me to look at in step 10. So I thought that's interesting. So when we get, so we're working on this God thing. You made me think of that when you asked that question. When we're working on this God thing, we are trying to perfect and enlarge our spiritual life, even before this, but now more so.
Then I got a question.
Yes.
So how should I do it, right? So I do this like step 10. I look at my day, then I pray, then I look at it again after I pray.
No, I don't even bother with what it says in the 12 and 12 in step 10. I just do that in step 11. Yeah. Which will, I'm just saying that our literature, some people are confused because our literature is telling us that in step 10 in the 12 and 12, and it's saying the same thing in step 11 in the big book. And some people are confused over that. A lot of people don't even ever catch it, but it is there, and it is in 2 different steps. And so the reason for that, but I don't do any step work out of 12 and 12.
I love that line, each day is a day with us carried.
All activities, yeah.
Constantly. With prayer, without prayer, God touches.
Hopefully. Yeah, Yeah.
Got away from that.
yeah, and you can do that all you wish. Susan, you can do that all you wish because it's the proper use of the will.
I looked up
It's
vision,
amazing.
but I just looked up vision and it says reality with them or
Reality,
understanding.
wisdom, or
and
understand.
understanding.
Vision, yeah. You get them?
I got them.
Right next to there.
She keeps popping in and out. It's Michelle.
Michelle,
It's like her 5th time coming in and out.
stop popping in and out, Michelle. All right, so you cannot do the 10th step the way the book says to do it and remain the same. You just can't do it. Your relationship with God, yourself, and others is going to get better and better. There's no way to do this stuff the way the book says and remain the same. And it's all about intuitively doing what I have to do. We get it fine-tuned to the point where I just do it. I just know it. There's in the CA storybook, they got I don't know if it's still in there, but originally they had a great story where the guy he was talking to, said he asked Michelangelo a question, and he asked Michelangelo, how did he come about to create the statue David, that beautiful famous statue? And Michelangelo's answer was amazing. He said, it was easy. I just took a block of marble and I chipped away everything that wasn't David. Which I thought was a brilliant answer, right? You just chip away everything. And so when I look at a situation, I kind of try to figure, not by myself, because I'll make some crazy ass statue. But through guidance and through prayer, and I try to, what's the picture supposed to be here? And then I just got to remove all the shit that ain't it. It's a really good lesson that works for me. All right, I want you to make note of 3 things that you need to be mindful of, 3 things you need to watch out for. Not in any particular order. Number 1, thoughts and motives. Number 2, words. Number 3, actions. Thoughts and motives, words, actions. You know why you need to be mindful of those 3 things? All 3 of them can get you in trouble. Any one of them, any 2 of them, and all 3 of them, they can all get you in trouble. So if we're mindful of that, we're more likely to not get in trouble. And then we need to start learning things as we grow and look at things. Like I found that anger wasn't necessarily related to what other people said or did. It really grew out of my own fears, my anxieties, my feelings of insecurity. That's where my anger comes from, right?
For being hungry.
Yeah, I get that. I become different. I become a different person when I'm hungry. But here's the thing, right? These fears, these anxieties, these insecurities, these are much more easy to deal with, these feelings, before I act on them. And that's what the 10th step is talking about when they say, as we go along through the day. Don't wait for 11 o'clock at night where you're sitting down going, you know, I shouldn't have said that to her. You know, I was a little insecure. Catch yourself while you're insecure. And take a step back. And then, so what is that about? We already talked about this. It's about learning how to respond to life rather than react to life. Inches and seconds. It's right on you. Don't react to it.
Sometimes it still takes me a minute.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Used to exaggerate all my stories.
Mhm.
You know, I started catching myself. Okay, no, I said 20, but realistically, it's probably like 5. But you know, just being able to be consciously aware of it and try and correct it as it's happening.
Yeah.
I feel stuff bubbling up inside when I start to get that want to respond thing or reacting. I'm sorry. And I'm like, sometimes I just do though. And then I have to do it and then
And so we learned some weeks back, I shared with you my friend in Los Angeles that starts his day and ends his day real simply, right? Enough. Whatever. Whatever starts the day, enough ends the day. So you can start your day over anytime you want. Enough. Take a deep breath. Whatever, you just start it over again. Inches and seconds. If you give yourself the inches and the seconds, you're going to respond differently. You won't be reacting. Your life will be different.
What's that Norm Alfie?
No, I'm Alpy.
Sounds like an old
He,
gangster.
he's not the one with the whatever,
Uh,
but he's the one with the inches and seconds.
You listen to his little thing, he sounds like an old Becky and Lacey or whatever, not Becky and Lacey, but whatever, those old mob movies. He sounds like that.
Okay. So it's easier to deal with these issues and these things before you act on them and before they come up, before they rear their ugly head, okay? That's why I like to, with the 10th step, I have a little catchphrase I like to say, is check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Mhm.
That's the 10th step.
other people.
Yeah, but check yourself before you wreck yourself. It's so much more rewarding like that in life. Pause, that's right.
My sponsor says it's take the starfish off.
Yeah, that's everything's right on you. So, because one of the things we do, especially new people, is we run around trying to get better.
Mhm.
We want to be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm getting better. My life's better. This is better. It's not about getting better here. All right. This is not about getting better. Some people have been sober for a long time and they aren't any better than when they got here. Sometimes people have been sober a long time and they're still pretty sick. Okay, so those are examples of how you don't want to be. Some of them get a little better, but the trouble with thinking that or trying to get better is that people like us could never be better enough. You know, we set a goal and right before we get there, we move the goal. You know, so it's not about being better, it's about being sober. You know, I'll look in the mirror, I'm gonna be better when I lose 20 pounds. Which, you see, that really brings me to the underlying reality of the thing is that I'm not okay with myself right now. So it really doesn't matter how many pounds I lose. So it's not about getting better. It's about getting sober and growing spiritually. The list goes on and on and on. It doesn't ever stop, right? Somebody once said that, we're the if only people. If only I lost 20 pounds, if only I had a better job, if only this, if only that, right? The people who wrote this big book, they understood that it's not about getting better. That's why they said progress, not perfection.
Progress.
Progress, not perfection. Take a look at where you're at now and where you were last year. You should see some progress. So step 10 is about progress, not perfection. And we have a tendency to travel too fast, people like us, nosebleed speed, because we're so busy getting better. I'm better, I'm better, I'm better, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. And we forget to be where we are and live what we're doing in the moment. We forgot to build a decent foundation because we're so busy running around getting better. And the first time the big bad wolf comes around, he huffs and puffs and he blows your house down. Because you haven't really built a strong foundation. You were too busy running around getting better. Yes,
That did.
you know the big bad wolf?
Running around getting better. Yeah, I always wanted to fix everything all at once, instead of just fixing one little piece. It's like everything has to be fixed all at once and then get so stressed out. You can't fix everything all at once that you just kind of crash again.
Yeah.
Like a sugar guy,
Yep.
hard crash coming down.
Yeah. So that's why for people like us, we have to realize something, that the intellect is not always the weapon of choice. It's not always our best friend. I always joke and say when I was in my first year of sobriety, my sponsor was talking to my sponsor one day. He says, "You're very intelligent, Danny." I said, "Thank you." He says, "That wasn't a compliment." I thought it was a compliment. So again, when we're trying to get better with everything, then that's a big red flag that we're just not okay with who and what we are at the moment. So since life is essentially learned by doing, and only to a very small degree learned by watching or learned by reading or learned by thinking, the only way to going to learn things is that we need to know is by putting it situations where we have to learn by doing. Knowledge plus practice equals learning. And you cannot work the 10th step if you're too busy being right all the time. I know whenever you think about something, I'm sure you think you're right. Because I don't get thoughts and go, "No, that's fucked up. I'm wrong." Yeah, that's right. So this is about doing, not thinking. About doing the next right thing. Now there's something in this. Let's look at this. Let's look at the 10th step. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it. So we've talked about everything up here so far, up to this word promptly. That's an important word, promptly. The sooner I admit that I'm wrong, the less harm it's going to do me or somebody else. Okay, it's like compound interest in the bank, right? Your money's sitting there and it's getting interest, and then eventually that interest is getting interest. And so the same thing is with something I've done wrong. And the negative stuff with me is gaining interest and getting more and more. So before we had this cell phones and GPS and all this stuff, you know, I'm one of these guys, especially when I came out here to Oklahoma. I'm driving one. This is a really weird story. I'm out here only a month or so. And I'm driving one day and I got lost and I don't know where I was, but I was in the middle of nowhere. I didn't even see a friggin' house. That's like, I'm not used to shit like that. You know, I didn't even see a house and I didn't know where I was going and I'm driving on this road. And I kept driving and all of a sudden I saw there was a house way up ahead. One house, the farm or something. And I'm slowing down now, and I saw a guy in the yard. I'm telling you, I to this day I don't know where I was. And I pulled in and I stopped and I said, "Hey, I'm lost. You know, can you get me back to the city?" And he told me where to go. And I turned around and I went followed his direction. I got back to Oklahoma City. And I went to a meeting that night. And that guy was in the friggin' meeting. He was in, what was the meeting next door to where we were, Baron? The round table. That's exactly where he was, in the round table. And I walked in there and the guy was right there and I said, "Holy shit." And he went, "Oh yeah, I saw you today." I mean, middle of one house there was, after miles. And there was this guy was in the damn AA meeting. That's weird. So what are we talking about? I got
Promptly.
So delaying my admitting that I'm wrong suggests that I'm secretly fighting 10-step, really. Hoping that the error is going to correct itself without any embarrassment or pain to me. This is a classic case of where we always try to save our ass and our face at the same time. Very hard to do. But delay usually means that matters get worse. And we pay this emotional interest on waiting that we talked about. Okay, who's got any questions on this stuff? Anybody got any questions? One of the things I want to say is that the 10-step is based upon how well you've done 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And most people that have a problem with the 10-step didn't really do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 very well. Because that's what this step is. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, let's go back to page 84. Page 84. It says the second set of promises again. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. What are we talking about there? How do we cease fighting that? Is just because I'm not drinking or using anymore, is that ceased fighting? Does that constitute ceased fighting?
I think because you're not promoting all those anxieties and feelings.
Yeah, and you're not running around and playing that tape in your head or reservations, you know. You just quit. You ceased. Surrender. Exactly. No. And again, remember back in step 1, the prisoner that's being marched off to the prison camp. I'm your prisoner, but I gotta have my own apartment, you know, and all that stupid shit, right? No, if I'm your prisoner, this is unconditional surrender here. So we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. I'm not fighting with that shit no more. Because at this point in my recovery, sanity should have returned to me. In fact, I don't know how much sanity I ever had in my life before I got sober and got to this point. Okay, nobody's got any questions on any of this? That's hard to believe.
I love those two words that. Subtle foe,
Subtle foe, yeah,
you know,
yeah. So let's talk about that. Those are very interesting words. What is a subtle foe? It says alcohol is a subtle foe, doesn't it?
Sneaky.
and then just slide up. Slide up.
Kind of like the difference between trudging the road to happy, trudging the road of happy.
Okay. So a subtle foe is somebody that can sneak up and get me without me realizing. That's what a subtle foe is, right? Like a snake is a good subtle foe because a lot of times you camouflage and you don't see him there, and next thing you know, he bites you, right? Well, a subtle foe would be going with him or her or it or them when you shouldn't be. But you tell yourself, I'm sober. Got 6 months. Haven't had a drink, a drug, going to meetings, got a sponsor, doing this deal.
The lies that we tell ourselves.
Well, this is the subtle foe. You promote your sobriety to upfront to do negative things that you know you shouldn't be doing. You know,
I remember I had something that happened one time that really shocked me. I was about 5 months sober and I was doing work one day and I lived in a sober house with other, sober house. And I coming out of the meeting and I used to drink those things called Limeritas, And so I remember I was walking out and I was like, hey, I'm stopping to get Limeritas. I wonder what flavor Christy likes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't drink anymore. But it happened, it was like lightning because it just happened. That wasn't my thought. I wasn't thinking, I was on my way home. I was walking out to my car from work. And that was the thought that came into my head. And I was like, wow, I don't even drink it. And it reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Honey, that was
yeah,
because it just snuck up on me.
it's a subtle foe.
Or like I had sick a few weeks ago and I started, for some reason, I hadn't noticed this in 3 or 4 years. I started noticing like what everybody was drinking on the TV shows. So it's like, is that a beer or is that a flavored soda? What is that? Is that what is that yellow meat? What is the orange type and all of this stuff? And it was all that crazy thinking, and you start noticing things and that you didn't pay any attention to for a long time.
Yeah, I was sober maybe a year or two. I don't remember, and they came out with this beer, Zima, clear beer, looked like water. And I was eating dinner. My brother was there, and I said, "What is that?" He said, "Oh, it's a new beer, Zima." I said, "Oh, shit." I said, "That's not fair to come out with this new shit after I get sober." He said, "You never drank beer anyway. What are you talking about?" Oh yeah, that's right.
When I first got sober, that's when they started getting the like 6-point beer in Oklahoma. They started putting wine in 7-Eleven.
It's a conspiracy, yeah.
Prepared for Sunday.
Yeah.
Now I go 7-Eleven. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sometimes you get a gift and like when I was on my way here, guys go by and they'll, and I thought, I still
Wasn't about me. They had seen my AA sticker and they were, you know, I'm like, God, what idiots. God, idiots, stop. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. 'Cause I used to never, I mean, I had one car at all times.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like,
Yeah. Okay, so be careful for the subtle foe.
Subtle foe for me, like, I'm starting to learn about myself is like getting resentment for certain people in meetings, which keeps me from going to the meeting. So it's maybe a couple steps into.
That's a subtle foe.
Yeah.
That's a subtle foe because it's working to counteract what you're doing right, you know, and because it doesn't always mean about drinking.
Right.
You know, I remember a point when I was real new. I was only like first 6 months or something like that, and I went home and I had this. Barry's heard this story before. I had this London broil. I don't know. You guys know what a London broil is? It's a kind of a beef like roast thing, and you slice it thin. And I made this London broil. I was living by myself, and it was so good. And the thing was about 3 pounds. And I'm slicing it thin, and I'm eating it, and I was getting ready to go to a meeting. I sliced a few more slices, and I wrapped it up nice, and I put it away. And I went to my meeting, came home that night, and the first thing I did was take it out, unwrapped it. I sliced a few slices, and to me, it was like dope. I would wrap it up and put it back in there and swear I ain't touching it till tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of like hide my shit somewhere, but I was right in the refrigerator. And I ate the whole London broil that night. That's a subtle foe working against me, you know.
relate to that.
Yeah. All right. So we got 5 minutes. Anybody got any questions? Any question on the first 10 steps? Any of the steps? Anybody online got a question? So we probably got, I'm gonna guess and say about 4 weeks left. So anybody got a question at all? We'll just quit 5 minutes early tonight then. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Good meeting, Danny. Thank you very much, brother.
See you guys.
I didn't know what to do with that, so,
How it goes in the safe.
okay. I'll let you handle that.